Was there another pun I just missed?
Yes. I said don't want to get into the pickle. He said, oh, don't be so sour.
Yeah, that one makes me groan. Yeah.
I like it. What is the word for like the bare bottom, like the lowest?
No, it's pretty.
I know what you're trying to think of. I mean,
certain people that use like
it's like the opposite of pinnacle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's like a word.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I'll think of it at some point. Yeah. Alrighty. Okay, so no homework obviously, and then the homework for English is for tomorrow, right? Same thing. Yes, it's tomorrow. Yeah. Anyone started yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This was the homework I signed yesterday. Yeah. Okay, and then Tilm class. Yeah, ignore the Tilm class. Yeah. Okay, so let's review what we did last time. We had Shimon Beno. We got a lot to cover. Shimon Beno Omer. We're going to try to get to the music thing today. Okay, but we'll see. I don't want to rush through the speaking discussion. Yeah. Yeah, me too. All right. Kol yamai gadalti ben chachamim. All my days I was raised among the chachamim. V'lo matasi laguf tov elef shtika. And I haven't found anything better for the body than silence. V'lo hamidrash hu ikar el hamase. Expounding, which means like interpreting text, I guess, is not the essence, but action is. Kol marbe l'devarim mevi chet. Anyone who increases words brings chet. Okay. So let's do the questions, and then let's just review which questions did we start to answer already. So what is the connection between the three clauses of the Mishnah? We said that the one that stands out kind of is which one? The middle one, right? And we said you could link it in because, well, how could you tie the second one in?
Action as opposed to.
Yeah, action as opposed to speaking. You could use it as another like minimizing speech thing, okay? 2, how does increasing words bring sin? What's so bad about speaking a lot? Is it all words, including Torah? And if not, why is he stated as an absolute? What kind of chet? What does it mean by brings chet? So we did start to answer this according to the approach the Rambam quoted yesterday.
Right. Well, the all words one we answered.
Right. So is it all words?
No.
No, it's not. What kind of words did the Rambam say so far?
There's no benefit.
The ones that have benefit. And
Yeah. So the ones that what were the 4 categories?
No, all benefit.
All
benefit. Harm.
Yeah, harm.
Without benefit.
Harm and no benefit. And the other one is nothing. Neither.
Yeah, neither.
And then the third one is all harm. No.
The third one is just no reason.
I feel like we've said all of them.
All
Which is not.
harm and benefit.
Yeah.
Harm and no.
Yeah, harm and benefit. Yeah, right.
And then not neither.
Neutral.
And then just
only good ones, right? So what type of chet, first of all, are we talking about according to that interpretation? What type of chet? Yeah. What do we mean by chet?
missing.
Yeah. It could be either halacha chet or a mistaken speech, like saying something extra in one of these 3 categories. So it's not that it is directly like a violation of like halacha, but it is a something that some sort of harmful speech or speech that is not good. Okay. Yeah. Even speech that's neutral. Okay. What does he mean? Why does he say he's found nothing better for the body than silence? So we didn't answer this, but I think it's possible maybe we can get a sense of what he means based on what we read yesterday.
Maybe the body is kind of like alluding to action. And if you're silent and you don't talk about the things that are like for not harmful for your benefit, not for your benefit, or the neutral things, then you're going to be persuaded to only do good actions and not bad actions with your body.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So you're saying it's more like how to use your body and something with the influence of speech on your body.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, on your actions. Yeah, that's an interesting interpretation. That could work. I have a simpler one, and I don't know if simpler is better. Like, okay, he certainly can't mean like your physical like body, because talking about like how nice like the king's palace is doesn't harm your physical body. So what would be like a still
Your
literal
image, like your body image, like how people perceive you.
That could be. He did talk about perception and saying like the lineage thing, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking like maybe it just means yourself, like and since he was talking about benefit and harm, then it just means like the impact on like harmful impact on yourself. And he's saying body because he wants to include more than just like your mitos and your mind. It means like the total self. Yeah, you're taking it a little bit further, saying it influences your actions, and I'm just saying it's like the impact on the self. But yeah, I think that's So yeah.
That, like physically, like it's bad for you because if you talk a lot, you're less likely to do. Like, you're less likely to do
So that's more like what Leia's saying
and
also.
you're
Yeah.
lazy. So that's
Yeah,
harmful
so
for your body.
that's interesting. So that fits in really nicely with the second clause also, right? Is that like it's
Right.
detracting from action in some way.
Like laziness. Seems like he's saying like being lazy.
Yeah, like
talking too much leads to laziness.
Yeah,
harming your
and you
body.
definitely see that's the thing people do is like they're all talking no what's it? Yeah, no action.
Talking, no do.
Yeah, right. Is there a phrase for that?
Yeah, all talk and no.
No do. I literally-
All bark and no bite, I know is for dogs, right? But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so no. But the point being is like I think that Alicia, if you're saying like people will use talking about doing something in place of actually doing something, which is a form of laziness. Is that what you're saying? Or
True.
yeah. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's Pirkei Avos also. I never there's a song about that.
Someone learns all day, they talk about Torah all day, but they never do anything.
Yeah.
They don't actually-
Exactly. Yeah, that's a critique I've heard about a lot of parents will wonder why their kids don't value Torah. I'm not saying this is true of all parents, but like parents will wonder why their kids don't value Torah, and they'll say like, I always tell them how important Torah, like learning Torah is. But then the question is like, when the kid sees the dad come home from work, what does the kid see the dad do? Is the dad just like watching TV all the time, or is he actually learning? And like the dad could be talking about learning Torah a lot, but if the kid doesn't see what he's actually doing, then it's not gonna. He's gonna know that it's not. He doesn't really take it seriously,
Or
Okay.
he just learns, but he doesn't show how.
Yeah, exactly. It could be like he learns, in his office or whatever, and like the kid just doesn't see it. Is that what you meant? Or
No, I was saying like he learns, but he doesn't like transform that into action.
right, meaning like he doesn't like live based on what he
Yeah.
or like yeah. That's a good point. Okay, what is he adding by saying I was raised by Chachamim? We theorized something about that yesterday, I think. Yeah, the lineage. Well, you were saying Ayala about humility, right?
Yeah.
That people who are humble will like silence accompanies humility, and then but we had another thing about the lineage also, didn't we?
Yes.
You tend to- that is like a learned behavior. That's
Right, that was the terms you put it in. Yeah.
You can't really teach it, you just learn it.
Yeah, and it's something that you would definitely infer is absorbed from the parents. Like in a household where the parents are like this, or in a house where you see a kid like this, you'll infer that the parents were like this also, that not just like blabbing all the time. But yeah. And then
I was thinking yesterday when we were talking about this that it could also be like you would expect that Chachamim would talk a lot and not be silent often because they're Chachamim and they have a lot to say,
Right.
a lot of wisdom to share. But he's like bringing a point that this is how Chachamim act and we should like emulate that.
Right. But we did note also though that what did he say about talking in Chachma and Torah? It's good and it's not something that should be limited. And we're gonna see a different opinion today, but that's yeah. Right. Right. So far then you would not necessarily associate pure silence with tzaddikim and chachamim. You'd only associate silence about like talking about nonsense. Right. Yeah. But yeah. What was
Well,
that?
I guess then she would say that he's not meaning it literally when he said like stuff about.
I mean, I think it fits into what we read, right? Because if we say good for the body, the way I said it, or the way that you guys are saying it, that in terms of it harming the self or leading to actions that are harmful, then the chachamim that he grew up with really were silent about those kinds of topics, and it showed in their actions.
So he's saying that like, in the beginning part, he's saying that you would be able to tell if someone only talks about things.
Sounds like it, yeah.
I was getting the vibe at first. I mean, now not anymore. I was getting the vibe that he just meant quiet. Like that.
Yeah,
quiet
that's
guy
why.
you
Right,
understand,
right,
like,
and that's why I think it's like a kind of like a shocking thing that when he says that the fourth category, or that he's only silent about the first three categories, and like I guess if he has a lot of chachma to say, then he'll be talking about that a lot. But it's not like he's just sitting there quietly, you know. In other words, you'll notice him by the types of things he doesn't talk about, not the fact that he doesn't talk, like the Eleanor Roosevelt thing.
it's
That,
less noticeable in that way.
yeah, you have to kind of
More
be,
subtle.
yeah, you have to kind of be noticing that this person only. I'm trying to think if, not to put people on the spot. I'm trying to think if there's anyone that we all know from Shelhevet who fit into this category, either students or faculty.
Just like didn't talk.
Who like you would only really hear that, like if you think back to them, you really only hear them talking about stuff that has value, you know.
I was
Reverend
gonna
Friedman,
say that, but
Reverend
no.
Friedman never talks about like shows.
That's true, yeah, but it's also hard. You don't have as big of a sample size because he only comes in to like give your class, you know.
See him for one
No, I
class.
know him as a.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can think of certain people. I'm just trying to think of someone we all know. Yeah.
Oh, where am I changed? You were just saying yesterday.
Oh yeah, that is a good
No,
example.
Even like he won't write out an entire word. He'll just like summarize it.
Yeah. Oh, so that's gonna be what we're gonna talk about today. Yeah. What was it?
We forced.
Forced me into do cooks.
No, so we're pretending that we're making him like make notes really short. So we're telling him how to write it as short as possible. If he's writing marriage, we're like just write M.
No, that is out himself.
And then we're like M equals money.
All right. Well, you're gonna see today that's actually not out of line. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this was Rambam quoting this guy from the Sefer Hamidos. I meant to mention yesterday. I don't know which book this is. Sometimes Sefer Hamidos is the Hebrew phrase for Aristotle's book called the Nicomachean Ethics. But I feel like the Rambam would tell us if it was Aristotle because he's he often does that. Maybe not, but it might just be some other like book about Midos.
I thought it was Sefer Hamada. Is there a Sefer?
There is a Sefer Hamada. That's the first book of the Mishnah
Is
Torah.
it also called Sefer Hamida?
No. Yeah, two different words. Mada comes from like Yadia, like Yada. All right. So now the Rambam is going to give his own opinion. Okay. Who would like to start off reading today? We are. I think you guys were on to the beginning of the next page or something.
Yeah.
I heard you all turn the page yesterday.
Oh wait, but doesn't it start with the first one?
But I said.
Yeah, but I say, yeah.
I agree.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, but I say that speech should be divided according to the obligation of our Torah into
5
5 categories.
categories. Ooh.
And
Yeah.
Matt told us that yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 commanded, 2 prohibited, 3 objectionable, 4 desirable, and 5 permissible.
Pause for 1 second. So what is the difference between his division and the other guy's division?
His title, not like how they benefit you.
But the criteria are also different, like the value system by which he's, yeah.
The first guy is saying the value system is like whether it's beneficial. This guy is saying the value system is whether it's obligated by the Torah.
Exactly, right? And by the way, we called this guy the Ram because I think this is actually the Ram's opinion. Yeah. So the first guy was using the value system of harm and benefit. Ram is using the value system of halacha, really, okay, or Torah obligation. Okay, and this will become clear as we read it. Okay, go ahead, Leah.
The first category is commanded, namely studying Torah, teaching it, and analyzing its explanation. This is a positive commandment with which we are commanded, as it is stated, and you shall speak of them, and is a mitzvah like any other. So much has already been stated, urging us to learn Torah, that this treatise.
Yeah, you know what a treatise is?
Yeah.
It's not like a little treat. No, no, anyone know what a treatise is? This will be our word of the day.
Discussion.
Did we? I don't think so. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, it was treaties.
Really?
I remember treaties on toleration.
Is it like an idea
Not
or
law.
something?
Voltaire.
No, but that wasn't with me though that we talk about Voltaire. I don't feel like yeah, that sounds like a Mr. Macklin thing. Yeah, no. So treatise is a lengthy essay.
I
Okay,
think we did. talk
I was
about
nowhere
treaties.
near.
I remember
Could be.
Slicing.
I don't know. So he's saying that basically like you don't need me to go on and tell you why learning Torah is good. Okay, you got a lot of books about that. All right, go ahead.
Okay. The second category is speech which is prohibited and which we are cautioned against, such as false testimony, lying, gossip, tale-bearing, and blasphemy.
Yeah, and remember what is blasphemy? We
Against
got that from
religion.
Eov. Not really. I mean, it's more specifically against religion. Yeah, against Hashem, right? Speaking heretical or inappropriate statements against Hashem. Yeah.
And there are many verses in the Torah which refer to this category. Included in this is Lashon Hara and Nivul.
Yeah. Now is nivul? All right. This is a question for you as people who went through the like Jewish day school system. Like I have a halachic understanding of what nivul peh is. Did they use nivul peh like in middle school and elementary school? No. Okay. Because I feel like there's the halachic. Anyone know what halachically nivul peh refers to?
Inappropriate
word.
speech.
Yeah, but like, so it's not inappropriate words. Sorry, it's not wasting speech. That's people call it sicha betela, is like empty conversation. What kind of inappropriate though is what I'm trying to get at.
Immoral. Talking about
Yeah, so halakhically it refers to like sexual or like bodily function type speech. But like I think I've heard people like use it for like
When
anything.
people describe something as vulgar like that.
Yeah, vulgar is a good English translation for nivul peh. Yeah. Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure you're familiar with that. Okay, so these two categories are very simple, right? Stuff that's mitzvah and stuff that's usser. I don't think we need to elaborate on that. Okay, now go ahead, Leah.
The third category is objection, which is speech that has no benefit for the person himself, neither in relation to obedience nor to rebellion.
Yeah, what he means by that, by the way, is those are just terms he uses for like how you can use your free will in terms of God's commandments. If you could either obey or rebel. So we can skip over that. Yeah. Such as
the majority of conversations of the masses. What happened and what was, and how such and such a king behaves in his palace, and what caused the death of so and so, or the wealth of.
Yeah. Now we don't talk about kings in our society. What's the equivalent in our society for talking about?
Celebrities.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be yeah, certain types of politics, or wait, what do you say, Elisha?
Celebrities.
Yeah, celebrities, exactly, right. So this is like celebrity talk, man. There were no real celebrities. It was all like rulers. Okay, go ahead.
They just called this.
Yeah.
Whenever I see like the italics, I have to read it.
Yeah.
Those who are pious would strive exceedingly to distance themselves from these statements. It is said of Rav, the student of Rabbi, that he never engaged in Sikha Batila in his life. Similarly, included in this category is when a person disparages a virtue or praises a vice, whether moral or intellectual. Okay, so let's just talk about those two examples, right? So Sikha Batela is like senseless conversation. Can you imagine? I mean, this is praise. I've only seen this of Rav, who was one of the, again, I think this is one of the Amoraim. Yeah, well, of course it was one of the Amoraim. So he never engaged in idle conversation, which is just astounding. Like, you need this.
Yeah, you would think so, right? You think it's like a psychological need, but I guess he never did.
Even just necessary, like telling someone, oh, it's necessary.
Yeah, you would think that like.
He passed me the bread, instead he's like.
He's like,
God,
Hamoti lachem arts. No, that's.
Discuss your child's wedding.
Yeah, no, but remember that's not Sikha Batela. That is something that is beneficial, right? Because that's how you get bread. No, this is the third category, which is
no benefit.
Yeah, in other words, I'm saying like when he says pass the bread.
Well, the benefit of that is getting food.
Yeah, right. Okay. So I don't think he would limit that.
Do people just randomly talk about the weather? I feel like in that context, everything's relevant. I'm talking about the weather with my friend because I want to know what to wear so I don't freeze and get sick.
Right, but then there's also small talk type talking about the weather, where you're doing it just to fill the space, Yeah. Now, and some types of small talk are necessary, like, but so I guess it's a question, what kind of Sikha Batela did he not engage in? Okay, fine. So that's one level, but then the second level, he kind of throws in at the end, okay? What does it mean to disparage something?
I think this would not be in this category. Well, I'm assuming it means like to
What does it mean to disparage?
Like disparage.
Disagree with?
Close.
Like upset about it?
To speak negatively about. So to speak negatively about a virtue, meaning about good midos, or to praise a vice. And what does vice mean?
It's like
a bad trait. Okay. So if you are, whether moral or intellectual. Okay. So let's say, for example, you are like, let's say like, for example, I know we're not going into music yet, but let's say like, as an example in music, there's a lot of lyrics of songs that are praising bad lifestyles, or like if you let's say like you were talking badly about people who are involved in learning, so that's not usher, it's not lashon hara unless you're talking about like a specific person, but like and it's also not there's no like lo sase in the 630 mitzvahs that says don't call like generosity bad, but if you do that, then that's not good, because why is it not good? That's what I want to try to unpack a little bit. Yeah, so for other people, it's definitely bad for people to praise good qualities and praise bad qualities and degrade good qualities. And what about for the self? Yeah, it's gonna skew your view of reality. If you're always like praising, let's say like the gambler's lifestyle or the playboy lifestyle or all this stuff, you're gonna start to like think about, you're gonna start to believe what you say. That's how like you talk yourself into various things. Yeah. Okay. So this is the third category. Okay. So again, we got to think halakhically here. So it's bad, but not usher. Okay. Go ahead, Leah.
The fourth category is desirable speech, namely speaking in praise of intellectual and moral virtues or disparaging vices in these same two categories, and arousing the soul in these ways with sayings and songs, and distancing the soul from them through these same.
So this is exactly the opposite of the last thing, right? So if you're talking positively about good qualities and negatively about bad qualities, and then even if you do it in the form of like songs or like quotes and stuff like that, it's not a mitzvah, but it is good speech. It's something the Torah is in favor of.
Similarly, praising the wise and telling of the greatness of their virtues in order to make their conduct beloved in people's eyes so that they follow their ways, and degrading the wicked and their vices in order to make their actions and their memory despicable in people's eyes so that they avoid them and don't follow them. This category meaning to say learning the noble attributes and removing from the base attributes would be termed derech.
You didn't say that in a funny way. Yeah. So it's funny. We mentioned politics, it is interesting that I guess depending on how you talk about politicians that you're for or against and why you talk about them, it might actually fit into this category. Like if you genuinely believe that a certain politician is good and you're praising them in order to get people to vote for them or support them, or you genuinely believe that a politician is evil and you want to spread awareness of the evil, then that would be in this category. Now you might be wrong, about your particular politician, but you would be engaging in this kind of speech. Everything's all opinions.
So it seems to be your intention.
How do you know anything?
No, I'm saying how do you know that person's right about it?
How do you know anyone's right about anything?
Not everything is opinion.
Yeah. Everything. I mean, most of what people say is opinions.
Oh my God, Avital was telling me how.
Well, I feel like we're miscommunicating here. What do you mean by like an opinion is your conclusion that you draw based on your own thinking? So how do you know I think Lomdeha is good, but that's just my opinion. I think Judaism is correct. I think that's just my opinion. So how do you know it's right? Is you, to the best of your ability, you evaluate the evidence, and you look at your thinking and see if you're making any mistakes. And yeah, so that's how. Yeah, what were you saying, Leah?
Oh, Avital told me that on the first day in seminary, she had one teacher who came in and she was do you believe in her? Why? Are you sure? How do you know that what you say is right? How do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be aware of that. I mean, most of what you hold by is opinions. I mean, it's not, the sky is blue is an empirical fact that you can observe, but most of what you hold by is opinions. And that's not a bad thing. That's what knowledge is. It's forming conclusions about things and then abandoning them, hopefully, when you're proven wrong. Okay, so this is the fourth. Yeah.
It seems like you're saying that your intentions are all that matters.
Oh, I was saying the opposite. I was saying that the intentions don't matter. I'm saying that the way that the Rambam's categorizing it is what you're saying, not why you're saying it. So I see why you're saying that, because I did say if you're trying to get people to support or go against. Yeah, I take that back. Is if you are engaging in speech that has this effect, like he's saying, praising the wise and telling of their greatness and virtues in order to make their conduct live in people's eyes so that they follow in their ways. I guess you could learn it both ways, right? Does that mean that you have to intend to do this, or does it just mean look at the effect of your speech and see if it is spreading good midos or not?
It could be I'm praising the wise, but really makes people mad.
Right, that's true. Yeah, so I would say
your intent that makes you do the right thing, or is it just the reality of
Yeah, I'm inclined to say it's the reality, because I think if you went into a scenario where you were praising, let's say keeping halacha, and you were in a place where you had anti-religious people, it's going to turn them off even more. So your intent is very nice, but your speech is harmful in that case,
There could be people that really try their best to do this for categories, but
yeah,
get there.
that's true, right? It goes by your actual effect of your speech.
You
seems
really be trying to do this, but you're actually doing the objectionable.
Yeah, in fact, the Rambam says that the sickness of the soul, he calls it sicknesses of the soul in Hilchos Deos, where he says people who think that good midos are bad midos and vice versa, and so they praise them not because they're trying to mislead people, but they actually think that this is a good midah, and it's actually the opposite. Yeah. Okay, now the fifth category is finally where he says our how he interprets the Mishnah. Go ahead, not the music yet. Almost
The
there.
fifth category is permissible, which is speech that pertains to a person's business, livelihood, food, drink, clothing, and his other needs. This is permissible in that it is neither desirable nor objectionable. However, if a person desires, he may speak of this as much as he wants, and if he desires, he may be silent.
Okay, so this is like the neutral category from the previous categorization, right? But it's neutral not in terms of harm and benefit. It's neutral in terms of the Torah's stance on it. So it's speech that is not an obligation. You don't have to talk about like what you're going to get at the grocery store, right? It's not like there's a Torah obligation to talk about what you're going to buy at the grocery store. And when you talk about it, it's not like the Torah says, "Oh, you're such a good person because you are talking about what you're going to get at the grocery store." And it's not usher, and it's also not bad. It's optional. Maybe optional is better than permissible, okay? Or like neutrally optional. Like I'm trying to underscore like the neutrality of it, okay? You see what I'm saying? Yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, can you argue that this is good? It's beneficial. Well, yeah, I guess beneficial because you're using it to help you like with Torah.
Yeah, it is beneficial, but I think the term that he uses in the fourth category is desirable in the sense of praiseworthy. You know, like and that's why I'm trying to say that it's this might be even practically necessary, but it doesn't make you like a righteous person, you know? Yeah. Okay, and now let's see his interpretation. Go ahead, Leah. It is regarding
This category that minimization of a person's speech is preferable. The Book of Musar cautions us against excess in this type of speech. But regarding prohibited and objectionable speech, there is no need to say or command us, for it is appropriate to be entirely silent.
Yeah, okay, so that is a very different opinion than the first one. So he's saying if it's talking about category 2 and 3, which is prohibited and what was the other category called? Objectionable speech. So then obviously you don't need to say, "Oh, be silent in that." Like, obviously you should never talk in that way. And if it's talking about a mitzvah speech, so then that you shouldn't be silent. And if it's talking about a positive, like a praiseworthy speech, then you shouldn't be silent either. It's just in the category of permissible stuff, of like optional stuff. Okay. And then he talks about Rabbi Chait now. Okay, go ahead.
But regarding commanded and desirable speech, if a person could speak about it all the days of his life, then it would be ideal. However, he needs 2 conditions for this. The first is that his actions should be consistent with his statements. As they say, how beautiful are the statements from the mouths of those who act in accordance with them. Regarding this, it is stated, expounding is not the essence, but action is.
Okay, good. So, yeah, that's from our mission, right? So what is, keep going until the end of the quote from Tehillim.
The sage said to a pious individual who taught good midot, expound, and for you it is befitting to expound.
Yeah.
Okay. And the prophet said, rejoice in Hashem, you who are righteous, to the upright praise is befitting.
Okay, so he's saying with commanded and desirable speech, of course you should speak about as much as you want, but there's 2 conditions. One, your action should be consistent with your statements, which means you shouldn't be what kind of person? Along the lines of what Emily said, that all talk and no action, but what do we call a person whose actions are not consistent with their speech? Hypocrite, right? You shouldn't be a hypocrite, right? And that's why he's saying, who do Chazal praise for talking about good midos? What kind of person? People will have them, right? So if you don't have them, if you don't have good midos, it's not that it's bad for you to speak about midos, but you shouldn't speak about it as much as you want, because that can lead to something that's harmful, which is like people looking at
representing it.
Exactly, and then be like, well, this guy doesn't even take it seriously, so like, why should he do this? And what was I gonna say? Also, the okay, yeah, fine, that's good. And the second one, this is I mean, I guess both of them apply to Rabbi Chait, but the second one also.
Second condition is brevity.
Yeah, what is brevity?
No idea.
Short.
Yeah, shortness, being brief. Same word as short as brief.
Wait, this is not talking about category 4.
This is talking about categories 1 and 4. Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about why in a second.
Okay. The person should strive to maximize the ideas in the fewest words, rather than the opposite. This is what the sages meant by their statement. A person should always teach a student.
So instead of writing the word marriage,
You wrote M.
you just write M. Okay, yeah, right. So this is, I mean, I'm not saying that the writing is the same thing, but who's famous for that? I mean, a lot of people, but Rashi, Rambam, Tosfos, like the way that our Chachamim write most of them.
Not
It-
Rambam.
No,
Well, I think
yeah, no, Ramban is not very concise. That's true. Is that they try to condense the most ideas into the fewest words possible. You know, Sforno does that also. He's a very concise writer. Yeah, certain Chachamim.
actually super concise.
Yeah, certain Chachamim have a reputation for not being concise. Like the Abravanel, not concise. He writes pages and pages and pages. But like the Rambam has this good quote is he says, when he's talking about the Mishnah Torah, he tried to do this in the Mishnah Torah, and he says, if I could have condensed the entire Talmud into one sentence, then I wouldn't have done it in two sentences. You know, like it's like just try to strive for maximum punch in one, like in fewest words. Okay. So you expressed surprise about which category he was talking about, right? So he is talking about which, just to be clear, which category is he saying that these two conditions apply to?
Things that you're commanded with and things that are talking about things in the right way.
Yeah, commanded and desirable. Okay, right?
This is not in 5.
So this is not high. So just to review then, so in category 5, that you should absolutely minimize. Okay, that's what the Mishnah is telling us. And then categories 1 and 4, you should not minimize, but you should be concise when you speak, and your actions should be consistent with your words. And it sounds like he ties the hypocrisy point to what you guys were saying earlier about it has to be in line with your actions, you know, or along those same lines. It has to be in line with your actions. I don't know if he's tying the brevity point to the kol hamarbe devarim mevi chet, like the more words you have, then the more it brings chet, or if that's talking about something else. But he is saying that even in the permissive, the commanded and beneficial speech, there still is a motion to try to restrict your words if they're not consistent with your actions, or if you don't need to say that many words.
So he's saying that this Mishnah could be talking about 3 kinds of speech, or this point about commanded and desirable speech is not what our Mishnah is talking about.
So according to, let's summarize everything we have so far. According to the first guy, who we don't know what that is, right? The Mishnah was only talking about benefit, yeah, that you should be silent in the sense of not having the first 3 categories of speech, but you should say only purely beneficial speech, right? That's what it meant to be silent. And then within that, there was no restrictions according to that guy. Rambam is saying if you classify speech according to Torah, so then prohibited and objectionable speech you should never say. Sorry, prohibited and objectionable speech you should never say. Permissible like / optional speech you should minimize. That's where you should increase silence. And then commanded and praiseworthy speech, you should have actions consistent with it, and you should use as few words as possible, but not reducing how much you talk about it. So if you could say a Devar Torah in 1 minute instead of in 5 minutes, go for the 1 minute.
That's what he thinks this Mishnah is talking about.
It's interesting. See, when you say this Mishnah, the first statement in the Mishnah is clearly he's talking about category 5, right? That's the first statement in the Mishnah of all my days I was raised among the Chachamim and I found nothing better for the body than silence, right? Because he's saying that is this category that the minimization of a person's speech is preferable, right? The second clause in the Mishnah, he's saying means that your actions should correspond with your words when you're talking about the first and fourth categories. And then that's the thing is, I'm not sure the third clause in the Mishnah, what he's referring to there.
I get what you're saying. So each one, is a different.
Yeah, that's what he doesn't quite tie it in and say that he doesn't say what kol hamarbe devarim mevi chet is talking about. You know, it can't be talking about categories 2 and 3 because that's not kol hamarbe devarim. Even one word of lashon hara is a chet, right? And I don't think he could be talking about category 5. Because he's saying you maybe do it or not. So it can't be bringing chet.
Wait, what about objectionable speech?
Yeah, so that's not just marbe devarim. That's any speech in objectionable category is going to be bad. It's not marbe, right?
Right.
So that's why I'm trying to wonder if maybe what he means is like, if in the places where you're supposed to be silent, you say more than necessary, that's marbe, then that's chet, not in the sense of sin, but in the sense of like that's not something that's good, you know?
Also, for lo hamedrash,
Yeah.
And that you said that as like the don't be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Can that also be brief since it says medrash, means expounded.
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like you're right that in English we often use expounding for mean like going on at length about, but I don't think the word. I think the word like you could have midrash just like a one phrase midrash, So I don't think it necessarily implies that. Yeah, creative though.
Can the last one? Maybe you were saying this. Can the last one be like the first categories, or you said that?
I don't think it can be right because if it's the first few categories, he wouldn't say chol hamarbe devarim maybe chait. And he also wouldn't say maybe chait. He would say is chait. Yeah.
It's not chait to talk about objectionable things.
It is not chait to talk about objectionable things, correct? But there is like what did he say? He said about the regarding prohibited and objectionable speech. There's no need to say or command us, for it is appropriate to be entirely silent. Marbe, don't be marbe means you shouldn't be marbe, but it's okay to say it a little bit. That's why I'm saying that Marbe has to be talking about categories 1 and 4. You see what I'm saying, Leah? Objectionable speech, how much should you do?
Very little.
No, none.
But maybe I'm misunderstanding objectionable speech.
Objectionable speech is category 3,
Right.
like praising bad qualities and
Talking about. So I don't think that he's saying that though, because he's saying like how the king is behaving in his palace. It's just.
But he's calling that
It's like
objectionable though.
opinion. It's like opinion.
Right, but he is calling that objectionable. Well, we can talk about why it's objectionable, but just right now we're trying to figure
Okay,
out
fine, yeah.
what he's right. Okay,
I'll
yeah.
agree with your-
Yeah. All right. So now the question is, why is that objectionable? All right. Let's go back to the third category. Seems like talking about like, hey, do you hear how wealthy Jeff Bezos is not nearly as bad as saying like murder's good, right?
That would be horrible.
Yeah, but he's putting it in the same category.
But just the way he says it is. Those are pious which strive exceedingly to distance themselves from these statements.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that's talking about you're reading from the wait, which one, where are you reading
I'm
from?
reading from in the third category.
Oh, in the third category.
Third to last.
Yeah.
sentence.
Third to last sentence. Those who are pious, you're right. Exceedingly distance themselves. So are you saying that means that not?
It seems like he's saying if you're a great person, you're
Right.
going to exceedingly distance yourself
Right.
from this, but it's not wrong to.
I see what you're saying.
Other-
Okay, that's a good question. Right. So then how do we reconcile that with
The fifth
this?
category, right? 'Cause it
Yeah.
sounds like the fifth category then.
No. I was saying, how do we reconcile with the last sentence here? But regarding prohibited and objectionable speech, there's no need to say or command us, for it is appropriate to be entirely silent from it.
Right.
Not.
Or because I
It's
think that
appropriate,
he's
though.
talking
You
about.
didn't say it's like.
That's true. He is using the term of appropriate, which in the case of something that's usser means like,
Better.
yeah, right.
And also, this is for sure talking about derech hayachid and not derech ha'am.
Yes,
And
yeah,
within derech hayachid, it would be appropriate.
Appropriate.
Entirely silent.
right. That's a good
But
point, right?
derech hayachid, that type of speech could be like.
Yeah. Okay, good. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because now we have to figure out how does this apply to ourselves, right?
Sorry.
No, it's good. So for ourselves, like where would we draw the line in derech hayachid and derech ha'am in terms of this quintuple division here? Clearly, well, it's clear which two we have to do and not do.
Commanded we have to do.
Commanded we have to do.
Prohibited we
Prohibited we can't do, right? So really, we're only for us talking about categories 3, 4, and 5, right? So certainly, if we try to go to the level of Rav, where we never talk about any Sikha B'Tela in our lives, that's like an unrealistic ideal. Okay.
Sikha B'Tela is 3 or 5?
Is 3. Yeah, see, that's a good question, Ayala. Sikha B'Tela, I mean, my answer is right, but Sikha B'Tela, see, there's in this division, there's a difference between talking about how rich Jeff Bezos is and then saying like, I got to go to the grocery store to buy some milk. Do you want anything? You know? So like that latter category, that's like just neutral. That's not going to harm you. But what the Rambam is saying is if your conversation is Sikha B'Tela, I mean, we talked about this with not being Marbe Sikha with the Isha, right? That it's very easy for this kind of talk to become the main type of conversation that you have, and your value system can kind of get drawn along with that. You know, where like all you're talking about is like the latest styles and fashions and like celebrity like gossip and stuff like that. You know, that's again celebrity gossip unless it's Jewish celebrities. celebrity gossip is not usher, right? Because it's not lashon hara or rechilus, so it'd be in this category. So how do you say like the average individual, the average Jew should treat this category?
Just watch yourself.
Yeah, I think watch yourself is good, and try, like any other area in the derech hayachid, like minimize it to the extent that it's realistic. I think it is probably realistic for most of us to avoid saying stuff like saying, "Oh, that's so stupid," if it's something that's actually good, you know, like if it's a good quality or something good, or minimizing like sicha b'tela in certain areas. But again, it's recognizing it's a high level. And then I think it's also realistic for us to try to increase, like ask ourselves, you know, what types of conversations do we have that are actually like advancing our ability to like live in the correct way in some way, you know, like not that that's the only thing you have to talk about with your friends, but like just, you know, keeping tabs on it, like you're saying, like watch yourself, you know, like keeping, you know, tabs on like what kinds of conversations are had there. And then fifth category, I really don't think the average person necessarily should worry about that because it's neutral, you know, like tackle categories 3 and 4 first, you know, and same thing like in Chachma, like, look, what's better for you, for like us in this room, talking about midos, even though we don't live that way, or not talking about midos at all? I think we're at the point where talking about midos, even if we don't live that way, is probably better for us. But if a great, you know, tzaddik or chacham was like lecturing people about midos that he didn't have, that would be like destructive, you know? So I think for us, the main thing is really focus on categories 3 and 4 to keep tabs on it. Don't worry about category 5. And then like, as you go, like, let's say some of you become teachers, you know? So then maybe you should try to make your speech like concise also, you know, like that's something I have to do because like I'm a teacher, you know?
I wouldn't be able to think of it. Like if I was having a conversation, I don't think I would. Maybe obviously if I'm talking about celebrities, I would know right away.
Yeah.
Something prohibited, but
Right.
I don't know. I feel like it's hard to decide.
Yeah, that's a good question.
If you're talking about
How do you, like,
something you
realize
went
that
through
you're
with
talking-
your
Yeah.
friend, I would think that that's beneficial.
That's a good question. Let me think about that and see.
It can help you, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not
I don't know.